looked back at the last 100 years, the good, the bad, and the truly remarkable. But perhaps it's now fitting to take a look ahead. In order to see the possibilities of the 21st century, it's important to measure our accomplishments of the past 100 years. The seminal beginnings of technology provided our high-tech lifestyle of today. The telephone connected us. The voices from the radio transformed into the images of the television screen, and then the computer screen, which once again relied on the telephone for the internet. From the start, it's been the dreamers who have left their indelible mark on our century, transferring their creative visions into realities that shaped our world. Creative pockets of imaginative minds nourished one another. Thomas Edison nurtured the talent of Henry Ford. Edison gave us the moving image which captured black and white memories of our past. His technology spurred on an industry of storytellers, actors, and directors that brought us the movies. The first mass medium to really bring the idea of celebrity into our lives, an idea that continued to intrigue throughout the century. Ford's motor car rendered the horse obsolete, closing the distance between people by making the automobile a cheap and reliable means of transportation. The Wright brothers' flying machine spawned a fleet of airplanes. Lindbergh sewed the European and North American continents together with his historic flight. And that technology was expanded to take us to the moon, where we gained a new perspective of our planet. The spread of 19th century imperialism ended in the 20th century as globalization. World War I represented the last death throes of imperialism and showed quite starkly that 20th century technology had put us on the cusp of a new age. The search for new forms of government began. The power of ideas spread through popular culture. With social movements, ideas became the fuel of change in the world. The 20th century saw the demise of long-standing monarchies and followed the rise and fall of new and more revolutionary forms of government.
Well, some things come around in circles. As I say, I think the beginning of the 20th century saw this major critique of capitalism with the Russian Revolution, and the end of the 20th century saw the collapse of that critique, and capitalism was really triumphant again.
With the impending collapse of Russia's great social experiment, new revolutions were born. People were still struggling to emerge from the grip of oppression. And as the century wore on, technology and revolution became more intertwined. Because of television, people watched events around the world as they unfolded. In Poland, word of the ship workers' solidarity movement gained popular support and international attention. The triumph of the human spirit was a hallmark of the century. The cry of freedom rang out and liberated. Walls that separated crumbled. Color barriers were lifted. And no country represented that more than South Africa, where a government was created to oppress the majority of people and herd them into manageable areas. Then, in a nearly bloodless revolution, Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress won their freedom. A political movement ended apartheid and gave them back control of South Africa. The Depression of the late 20s and 30s set the stage for the century's most violent chapter.
If I look at European history during the 20th century, I would say that economics is vastly important. And if economics go downhill, then democracy goes downhill. And then we tend to end up in dictatorships because, for whatever reason, a lot of rulers or demagogues, whatever you want to call them, tend to think if you can't solve a problem peacefully or democratically, then create a dictatorship. And that's happened so many times. Obviously, since I grew up in Germany, I never imagined anything like Hitler and the Nazis, because they were civilized people.
The 20th century has been filled with humanity's struggle to contain its own violent nature, culminating with the 2 atom bombs which were dropped on Japan at the end of the Second World War.
Nuclear weapons, I think it's one of the great lucky events of the 20th century that nuclear weapons have only been used twice. When you think about it, that's really quite remarkable. And I have a feeling that as we go into the 21st century, we will look back on that and really see how remarkably lucky we were.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki provided us with a warning that the progress of our technology may just be our own undoing. But if used properly, it can be our saving grace.
I think the 21st century is going to be pure science fiction. The pace of change will be so fast that Clarke's remark about being indistinguishable from magic, I think they will cure disease. They will send probably unmanned to planets. We will transform agriculture. We may evolve nanotechnology. This is a technology in which you manipulate things at the molecular level. If you can manipulate molecules, what can you make? The answer is anything.
It's been an incredible century. We started out in horse-drawn carriages, then moved on to automobiles. Long-distance travel went from trains and luxury liners to high-speed jets. We experienced the devastation of 2 world wars and the horror of nuclear destruction. We cheered as people throughout the globe, kept down because of race, religion, or sex, gained their independence, freedom, and right to vote. And strides in technology took us beyond our imaginings. I'm sure the next 100 years will be just as exciting. Thank you for joining us with our look at the great moments of the 20th century. I'm Laura Mackenzie.